Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Yes, you see the half a dozen here, and that's what we have. We have 5 subjects and a half a dozen people to talk about it. I know Mel Farr will come up with another one as we get going. Let me introduce the crew right to left. Bo, Football Talk. Welcome back, Bo.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You're very welcome. Coach Bono.
Great to be here as always.
Great to have you, as always. And Mel Farr Jr. We got a little bit of extra work last night. We had a great show on No Limits with Jennifer Lee Cobb, former St. Louis Rams cheerleader. And we had a good time talking about Parkinson's as well as other head injuries. Thanks for being on for your second night in a row, Mel.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. It was my pleasure.
Last but not least, Travis Sherlock Holmes.
Thank you for having me. Football all day long. Let's go.
That's it. And last but not least, George Eichhorn. He did some great things last night with the Polish Hall of Fame. We're glad we have.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good to see you guys again.
Yeah, we didn't have you last week on Wednesday night, but we made it work like we always do here on the network. So, with that said, before we get going here, I want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Yes, I go ahead and talk faster so you didn't know if it was a run-on sentence or not. The only thing running is my mouth. Okay. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter, @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. She's working on a lot of the stuff with the website. But boy, she was very, very busy last night, filling in when we really needed her. And again, she's a tremendous asset in more ways than we'll ever know. All right, give you an overview of the subtopics tonight. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, Colorado State, Brock Purdy, Dwayne Rock Johnson, and the New York Jets. That gives us whatever else Mel comes up along the way. Let's get it going. Aaron Rodgers had Achilles surgery. Is it realistic that he'll be able to return for the NFL playoffs, Bo?
No. So the fastest timeline that I saw was 5 months turnaround, which would give him almost exactly the Super Bowl. With that team, Zachwilson under center, there's no way they make it that far, unless they get a veteran that can make it happen. And even if they do, if they make it that far, they're going to roll with whoever got them there.
Fair enough. Coach?
Well, I just, I sent you guys Bo, I would have sent it to you, but there was an article where I guess he's having this, new surgery. That's where that's stemming from, that he could be back. But I think it's going to have a lot to do with what the team goes. You know what I mean? Obviously, if they can play to their strength, which right now is their defense and their running game, they might have a chance. If they get into games, which, I think Dallas's defense is outstanding, and I think they're going to make a lot of offenses struggle this year. The bigger test really are to kind of see where they're at will be, this week against New England. But I would say the odds are probably greater that he does not make it back this year than not.
Fair enough. Okay, Mel?
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and similar to what Bo said. If they should happen to catch on fire and are in the playoff hunt, why would you bring somebody, bring him in and play? Because obviously, they found something and it's working, and you probably want to continue to ride that horse as far as you possibly can. Achilles are very, very tricky, and especially at his age, he has to be very careful. The Braves, I remember, had a pitcher here, Mike Soroka or something like that. He had an Achilles injury, came back and was just walking in the clubhouse and tore the Achilles again. So he missed 2 years from an Achilles. So you got to be real careful. And I've seen guys come back. I remember Terrell Suggs came back early. He was playing basketball or something like that. And, when you get hurt not playing football, you don't get paid. And he came back sometime maybe 6th game or something like that after something like that happened. So, And I was very surprised because, you got to put a lot of pressure on that Achilles when you're rushing the quarterback. So I was very surprised to see him come back early. And there was somebody else that I think came back from Achilles injury. I think it was Cam Akers that might have came back from Achilles
We'll
injury.
turn it over to Travis.
Than a lot of people suspected. So, but at his age, he's got to be very careful. And then, what's the reason? Why? Why put yourself at that risk? I mean, this year is a lost cause. They might as well just try to put all their eggs in next year's basket.
All right, Travis.
Well, I mean, when we talked about this last week, to Mel's, everyone's made great points overall, but to Mel's immediate point that he just made, as far as what's the reason, what's the cause, what's the purpose at this point, I would say the purpose for Aaron is simply kind of, and I think I brought it up last week a little bit, like, hey man, he doesn't have a dog, he doesn't have a girlfriend, doesn't have family. Like, his reason is football is his reason. Like, that is his drive. It doesn't even seem to be stemming specifically for money. It's just, hey, football is the thing, and it doesn't sound like he wants to coach it even at this point. It's just like, hey, this is the drive. So he goes through this innovative surgery to try to make it back by mid-January, and Godspeed to him, but to Bo's point, I don't know how if you make it to the playoffs in that division, with the Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Patriots, like, if you make it into the playoffs in that division, you probably are doing all right at the quarterback spot, or at least in an 8 to 9 win sneaking in situation. I can see maybe in that situation if Aaron's all right, and it's such a low probability thing, just everything putting it together. But we're talking to top 1% of athletes. Like, so, as much as I say I'm talking out of my behind, and it's just a low probability, all these guys are low probability scenarios. So, you know what? I don't know. Maybe, like, if Rodgers is all right, and is 50% Aaron Rodgers better than 100% Zach Wilson? Maybe, probably. Like, that's a ridiculous. That's a hard question.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, that does kind of make you think in philosophical ways. All right, George Eichhorn's back on. Go ahead, George. Give me your take on whether Aaron, as a Rodgers, turns back to the active roster or whether he stays off of it.
I would find it very unlikely that he'd be able to. I mean, he's such a gutsy performer. Obviously, if it's physically possible, he would want to. That being said, I agree with what most of you guys have said. I mean, if the season depends on how the season is going also. If they're facing a real challenge to make a wild card spot and they're contending, well, then maybe. But then again, you got to give credit to the quarterback that's there now, whether it's Zach or someone else that's leading them to the charge. So it's kind of a, possible scenario, Scott, but I think it'd be highly unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I'm not holding my breath. I doubt he'll come, but there's two key words that start with MM, modern medicine. Yeah, so you always want to say modern medicine. I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to do it anyways. Damar Hamlin's life was saved because of modern medicine compared to what we had to deal with many years ago when Chuck Hughes had his life taken because we didn't have it. So modern medicine equals one thing. You have a puncher's chance. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it. All right, let's go to another topic we've been following the last few weeks, and now we're going to do it again. Colorado 43-35 over Colorado State. And 2 overtimes, Colorado State. Get this, had 17 penalties for 182 yards. I can only imagine how many personal fouls they had. I watched the game right. And Jaynorvell made sure that his team came to prepared, and Deionsanders realizes that this was going to be a route that he'd have to earn this one. So, when you think about the fact that I thought it would be a route, I give Jaynorvell a lot of credit. I didn't like the nature of all these personal fouls, late hits. I get it. It's a state rival. I really, really do. But for some reason or another, this one had bad karma to it, knowing that to me, in some ways, it crossed certain lines in terms of being dangerous. With that said, Bo, take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exciting game. I mean, when you have almost 200 yards of penalties, the fact that they were that close at the end of that is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like the way it was played in that way. I'm all for it being physical and chippy and all of that. But when you get into the dangerous type of late hits, stuff like that, I don't like to see that, especially having played, like if somebody came in and hit any teammate like that, like, man, it could get out of hand right away. So I didn't like that the coaching didn't address that from the top immediately and kind of calm their sides down. It seemed to continue throughout the game. I don't know. It's not something you ever want to see.
Yeah, and Sanders, to his credit, had that late drive at the end and got Colorado tied. So we all know he's going to be a bona fide NFL prospect. So I handed off to Sanders. I didn't like the nature of how this game. It had a bad feeling for me. It just did. But that said, Coach, you saw. I'm sure you've been following it the last few weeks. So you probably could gain a pulse of how you would have coached a game like this, or what you saw from the outside. Take whatever approach, or both, if you see fit.
Well, I mean, it was a sloppy game, obviously, with the penalties, and I think the officials knew it was going to be that way. I mean, they made a lot of calls early in that game. The reason there were so many penalties is that in Colorado State's they didn't ever adjust it. You know what I mean? You have to understand, play the game within the game. And, in rivalries, there's a lot at stake. I mean, it was I love the effort. I applaud the effort on both teams. I think Colorado State's got themselves a really, really good young quarterback as well. I mean, that kid is, he made some excellent throws. The hit that knocked Travishunter out of the game was very, very unfortunate. It was brutal. It was a horrible cheap shot. I thought the kid should have been ejected. And if I'm Jaynorvell, man, I'm pulling that kid out of the game at least for a play or two. Just to send the message. Because that was unnecessary. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was a bad look for Colorado State. It's a bad look for college football, and really is a bad look on the officiating as well, because they probably should have. They had enough grounds to he should have been tossed for that. That's my opinion.
Okay, George.
I agree, Coach. I feel the same way. When you see stuff like this happen, it's unfortunate. We saw this with Michigan and Michigan State, the famous tunnel incident of a year ago, and the two teams. There's so much emotion in these interstate rivalries, and you know what? They didn't help by the buildup either. Talking about sunglasses and making fun of Deion, interview techniques and stuff like that. I mean, there was all kinds of junk flying around leading up to the game, and the chippiness was there. I mean, you knew that was going to happen, but I agree. I mean, you have to take control of the situation. You're the referee, and you got to take control of that situation and run that game properly, because otherwise you don't know what you're going to get. And unfortunately, this is what happened. It got way out of control. Congratulations, though. Both teams played an exciting game, but Sander, I mean, it's just too bad that this has to erupt like this. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I totally get it. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I was a guy had tweeted, said that Colorado State played like the prison guards from North Dallas, Florida. They were, and they kind of did. They are a much better football team than I thought. They're a very physical football team. Those safeties are extremely physical. I don't think that Colorado expected them to be as physical as they were, but they're a very physical team, very, very well coached team. I was trying to figure out who this guy was, man, that would make it. I don't know if I said this before, who would make that kind of comment. And so I was Googling him and, just reading up about him. And I see that, in 1985, they won the Big Ten championship. He went to Iowa, and they played a little small school out west called UCLA in the Rose Bowl and got funked. And I didn't realize that he was on that team that we had actually played against him. But think about this: both coaches did what they needed to do. I mean, obviously, the coach Norvell said he was, that comment was meant for his players, not anything against Deion Sanders. And that was the third highest rated late night football game in ESPN's history, and the fifth highest rated as far as viewers in all of time slots. They had 9.3 million people watching that game at 10 o'clock at night. Now, I fell asleep, and I popped up at about 2:15, 2:25, and I saw, man, no overtime. I mean, I was seeing double, and I'm saying, what, double overtime? How did that happen? I didn't realize that they had fallen down by 11 and whatnot. So I was able to watch the end when I popped back up, but I mean, that's way past my bedtime. But that was a heck of a ball game, and got a lot of people watching it, and obviously a lot of people are talking about Colorado. And they should be, because they're a pretty doggone good football team. Now they have they have some tests coming up here the next 2 weeks, and we'll find out what they're really about here. But if they can't run the football any better than they've been running, it's gonna be tough sledding for them, because they cannot run the football and they cannot stop the run. And then they're missing one of their best players, who's actually two players, because he plays on offense and defense.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Before I turn over to Travis, I got to tell you what my night was, and I did see the whole thing. I'm thinking about I'm up till 2 a.m. until this thing is over with. You ready? It takes me a little time to wind down. I have a show, The Professor and the Pupil, the next morning. Okay, that morning at 9:45, we're talking about pro wrestling, and if that wasn't enough, I had the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves game, and I had to be at the ballpark at 11:30.
Oh,
and
my.
and then I didn't get back until probably 5 or 6. So it's safe to say that it was a pretty interesting game. The Marlins blew out the Braves 16-2. So I had no problem writing what I needed to there. It wasn't a hard story to compose. I'm working on it. But, when you think about it, it was a late game. And that rivalry, I mean, I don't care about all the hype that led up. Let's face the reality. A lot of people won. You had Fox's pregame crew was out there, ESPN. You had every individual, the big name on there. One of them we're going to talk about in a moment that was there. So, you know what? If you could draw that well that late with all the buildup, then somebody promoted the daylights out of it, and they did it really well. All right, Travis.
No, you said it. Deion at this current moment in time is like an MMA fighter, like Floyd Mayweather, like Tiger Woods. In his prime at this point, he is building an audience where none, where few people in. Everyone wants to see it. Everyone wants to see this dispute, this argument. He made this game, which everyone thought walking in it to be, realistically a blowout. I think they were favored by like 24 points. He made it into an MMA preview, a pre-boxing match, weigh-in, essentially, and made it so that people wanted to watch for the pregame and the pregame stuff and the postgame handshake. Like, what? He's making people care about something that, frankly, most people probably wouldn't care about. Like, that is Deion's one of one, man, in very many ways. But as far as the Colorado State team, they under jaynorvell, they're 3-13, so they obviously haven't had a good go of this, let's say, so far. But also, they're a really penalized team. Like, even just looking at it from that perspective, they are a very undisciplined team. This is who they are. So this is a rivalry, yes, true. But this is also a rivalry against a team who is known to do what they did. They beat them up both legally and illegally, and just being real about it. And in very many ways, it's like that kind of a boxing match. To Mel's point, this is like that prison boxing match where there are going to be a few punches right below the belt, and they're going to see how you're going to respond to that. And frankly, Colorado wasn't ready for it. They were ready for a boxing match. They were not ready for a street match. And that changed the ball game a little bit.
You're never ready to have your ear bit off.
Right. That's it. And so they learned what they are and aren't made up in a lot of ways. And they're going to have to go, do a little gut check on that one, because there will be some teams that's going to come up. They won't necessarily play this dirty, but they will give them a few gut checks and try to find out what they're really made of, because now that's on film. They've seen that. All right, if you challenge them, they might break, and someone else will do that this season. So,
good point. All right. With that said, let's move on to the NFL. The legend of Brock Purdy grows 12 wins in a row during regular season. The last loss was October 23rd versus Kansas City. Unbelievable, this guy. Right, Bo?
Yeah. I mean, he plays really smart football. I mean, he had a lot of reps in college, and he has the benefit of having an absolutely stacked roster around him. I mean, when you looked at last season, up until CMC had to take some snaps, just about anybody could win under center with this team. So, although I think Purdy is really good, the team that's around him is amazing. So, we'll see how it goes. But everything that I've seen, especially as sloppy as gameplay has started this season, this looks like they could be the most complete team in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know Christian McCaffrey's there and they're well coached, but Brock Purdy's the guy that they ended up keeping, and then ended up letting Trey Lance go because of this. So, with that said, I'll turn it over to Coach.
Well,
Was that one of your stops?
It was one of my stops. I actually came in on the tail. He was on his way out when I came in last year.
Really?
So heard a lot about the kid. Saw a lot of film on him. So I'm not, I can't say I expected him to do what he's done, but just knowing his character and his makeup and how he's been raised and groomed in the game, it's not totally surprising. I think Bo hit it right. That team, they're a complete team. They need someone to really go in and not necessarily carry them, but execute in that offense, in that system, make good decisions. And for a young guy, I mean, he's really been able to excel at that. That's what he's done the best, is not make rookie mistakes. Which there's a lot to be said for that.
George?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a very intelligent guy once he's on that field. His skills are obvious. It's just an amazing run right now. Purdy is doing a great job. Of course, he's surrounded by a lot of good people. And of course, I say that they're one of the favorites to win it all this year. I mean, it's an amazing story. It continues, like you said, Scott, going back all the way to last October. So he's an intelligent player. He knows how to call a game. I know he's getting help with that. Of course, I know that with the coaching staff, and they're calling a good game too. But just his on-field intelligence, I'm very impressed with, and he's in control of the situation. He doesn't panic, and it shows with the wins coming, his way.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, like Coach, I can't say I expected it, but it doesn't surprise me to say that he's doing as well as he's doing. I did get an opportunity to watch him a few times play in college, and it was always left the game after watching it very impressed with him. So it doesn't surprise me that he is doing as well as he's doing. I don't think anybody had the foresight to be able to predict that he'd be playing at the level that he's playing at. But they caught lightning in a bottle, and lucky for them. Now they have this window now where they don't have to pay a quarterback, and they can really do some things. And they got a very competent quarterback. I mean, I look at him; he's like John Stockton or Magic Johnson. He's just a point guard. He just gets the ball to the playmakers. That's what his responsibility is. Just get out the way and let the playmakers make plays. They got a defense that that likes to get after the passer. I mean, they have a formula. They get up early, and then the teams have to start to drop back and pass, and those guys pin their ears back, and they get after the quarterback. And then they can just run the football, wear them down in the second half by running the football and playing the possession game and shortening the game and get on out of there with the win and do the same thing next week, similar to what Indianapolis used to do when they had Peyton Manning and Edgerrin James and all those guys. They get ahead early and then they pin their ears back in the second half. It's very, very difficult, for teams when you know exactly what it is they're going to do. But yeah, Brock Purdy's done a great job. And like I said, it's not anything I expected, but it doesn't surprise me.
Travis.
Yeah, and it stinks that he got hurt in the playoffs last season or this streak. We wouldn't just be talking about regular season wins. We'd just be talking about straight wins in a row. His one loss that happened to come in the game where he gets hurt. So all that to say is, and I hate to say it, but Kyle Shanahan has found his quarterback for his system and he's you anyone who's a 49ers fan, you know that he's sort of been looking for that guy for a very long time. And you kind of always knew it wasn't Jimmy G. It was just that's what we have. But he was always looking for that guy who's just going to run my system, because he's that coach who's always kind of viewed himself as smarter than everyone else. And rightfully so. Like, he finds a guy who's not this incredible athlete. You know, he's not this Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, prime Tom Brady. He's not that. He's just a guy who's more like, honestly, rookie Tom Brady. A guy who's not going, like, the guy who takes over for Drew Bledsoe and just runs the offense. The early Ben Roethlisberger. No one's who's going to have great numbers, great stats, just adequate, just better than average, just above average, and he's going to run your offense and not make too many mistakes, and that will get you wins in a Kyle Shanahan offense, because he's always going to have a good defense and he's always going to have a great running game. And if you're a fan of any other team, that is going to be problematic for the next few years, because, like you guys said, he's going to be on that cheap contract.
Well, I'll close out the topic by saying this, is if we needed to really reinforce it anymore, guys like Tom Brady, Brock Purdy realize that you can find good quarterbacks later. You really can. So, all these first, second, third round quarterbacks are what they are, but when you get them later, what you have called hidden gems. And you got guys that are angry that say these guys were picked ahead of me, and there's nothing more than bigger motivation than an angry player that was passed up by everybody multiple times. But hidden gems and angry.
Would you mind? Is it just me? I feel like we've gotten way more of those later round, better than average quarterbacks with this whole infiltration, I'll call it, of the spread offense into the NFL. Now it seems like there's a much bigger, there's much more depth to these. There's a lot more quality backup quarterbacks out there. You used to have like 25 to 30 guys, and now you realistically have like 45, 50 solid guys out there.
Yeah, but don't forget the fact that nowadays they're expanding the practice squads to be 16 players, so you can get other guys in there, and that's going to lead us to where I want to go, and that being this. The title of the show is a merger on the horizon. So if there's ever a good segue to what we just talked about, this is it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson mentioned the possibility of an XFL USFL merger. Actually, on College Game Day, I watched it. He was in town promoting. So what do you think, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I thought was going to happen when it was the XFL and the AAF. You basically have two startup leagues that kick off. They kind of solidify a little bit, and then you merge them together, because you then end up with your conferences, excuse me, similar to the way the NFL came together. And then you also get to double the size of the league without having to actually do anything. And so you get to save some money by not having to run two different programs. You get to double the size of the league. You get to include more of more of the U.S. because more cities have a team. So, I mean, it would be great for it. It's happening sooner than I thought it would. I thought they were going to have to run independently for a couple of years to just prove they were viable on their own. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense to have them come together.
Coach?
Makes a lot of sense. I think it's a win-win for both leagues. I think it's a win for the fans. I'm a fan of the spring leagues. I think it's great. It creates opportunities for lesser-known players to get recognized. It keeps it keeps more coaches employed. I'm a football guy, and anything that keeps the game going and growing I'm in favor of.
George?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought, like Bo said, it would take a little bit longer than 2 full seasons. The Michigan Panthers, of course, are right in my backyard. And although there was a little bit of hype here in Detroit for them, the fact of the matter is there were a lot of empty seats at Ford Field for their games this spring. That being said, I agree that the exposure level in the expanding or contracting, whatever you want to call it, merging, will help because of the fact that more cities will be represented. There'll be more players in the pool. playing in the same league. But hats off to Daryl Johnston, especially at Fox. Daryl has done a great job running the league, and like I said, the Panthers here in Detroit are one of the teams. So, but both leagues, yes, it does apply. It makes a lot of sense, and it gives those players, like you guys said, the opportunity now to catch on, to show their talents to a bigger audience if we have one league as opposed to two leagues trying to duke it out against each other. I'm in favor of it, Scott.
Mel?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, they're competing for players right now. They sign contracts with one league. You can't sign with another league. So I think they may have more players than what they really need based on that model with having two leagues. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to merge, combine their resources, and make this thing work. Because I'm like Coach, I like spring football, and not so much to watch it myself per se, but to give the guys opportunities to get some live reps. There's people that just need some reps, and you never know. You might find a diamond in the rough. I mean, Kurt Warner. I mean, they found him in the Arena League. There's guys that have played in these spring leagues and have gone on to do great things in the NFL. So I think it's very, very important. Particularly skilled guys, quarterbacks, even offensive linemen. I mean, they need an opportunity to go after somebody live. So they can work on their technique, and coaching is a big part of this. Get these guys coached up so that they can have an opportunity at the next level. And even if it doesn't work out for them, they got an opportunity to go to camp and see what it's like and measure themselves up against the very, very, very best.
Yeah,
Travis?
I mean, yeah, everyone's kind of hit on the vast majority of kind of what I was going to say. I mean, on this, they were cannibalizing each other. Like, they weren't truly, because they were two essentially minor league, we'll call them football leagues for better use of the term, but they had seasons that essentially overlapped outside of 1 month. So it became problematic, and it's the best decision long term for them, obviously, is to make it into a bigger one bigger league. But also, back in February, they announced that arena leagues were going to come back, and that was going to be a second quote unquote professional league that was going to be that they were going to have to compete with individually. And all three of them competing at the same time, they know, we've seen this book, we've seen this story, that was not going to work. So at least coming together, maybe they can put the death blow to arena football. I can absolutely see that being a possibility, and pulling players and pulling resources and things of that nature just by their pure existence, if they can get this thing hammered out. But now, knowing that they're not competing with each other and they're on that same schedule, yeah, I can absolutely see this being successful, or at least having a higher probability of being that. And you got therock, and you got all these famous people already associated with it. I think this could be a good little developmental league for the NFL, and that's probably their best case scenario.
I just want to let our audience know that here in South Florida, we are dealing with some rainy tropical conditions. So if we run into technical problems, bear with us while we go through this. The only thing I'm going to mention about this is I covered the old USFL, played 18 games. So here's what's going to happen. Number one, the XFL was kicking the tires with the Canadian Football League for such we had a North American. That never worked out. And I can see why there would be differences. We have the Canadian dollar versus the American dollar, the differences in the playing field, or who would adapt or what set of rules. So I could see where that may have gotten tripped up. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to go on record saying it. No, I'm not predicting a route this time in college football because I don't want to eat crow. Okay, I'll have to eat hospital food in about a week. Kidding. Well, I'm really not kidding about that, but I don't want to eat crow. Here's what's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But should a merger like this take place, 18-game regular season, the way it was back in the 80s with the USFL. The season will start a little earlier, maybe not February. We'll see how they figure out the dynamics. Whether there's even a preseason game or two, I don't know. But you can expect an 18-game regular season. That's what you can. I think both leagues are, at 10 right now? So you can bump it up by 8. And, yeah, you're going to have a lot of major markets, and the work's already been done. You've got so many television partners placed. NBC, right? Fox. You got ESPN will get their piece of the action somewhere. And then you have what? So who am I missing? I got ABC, ESPN.
I don't think CBS doesn't do them, do they?
CBS, I didn't see them on the list.
No, I don't. No, I didn't say CBS. I said NBC, I believe, is on there at Fox, and then you have ABC, part of the Disney. So you have Fox and NBC right now currently run the USFL side, and I believe ABC and ESPN are marketing the XFL. Either way, you got a lot of TV partners in place, and like you guys said, the markets are there. The dirty work has been done. We already have the logos in place. It's all there. It's just a matter of balancing the geography out in an effort to go out there and make sure it's success. So I hope it happens, and the sooner the better. But it wasn't bad that these two leagues went out there and started on their own to see which one markets would work versus which ones wouldn't. And the fact that the XFL has a partnership of sorts with the NFL. In the end, the whole idea is no matter who's partnered up with who, it's pro football during the spring. Everybody knows that you'll be able to watch it anyhow, and it's a developmental process so these guys can get looks. I'm thinking how many of them were signed in both leagues that are on NFL rosters or practice squads. This only enhances the talent level to begin with. And let's not lose sight of the fact that maybe down the road, we don't know when, there might be expansion in the NFL at some point either. So you're laying out the groundwork. And many years ago, a lot of us can remember NFL Europe. The only reason that didn't work out, it was too expensive for the league to carry an overseas league. But let me tell you, the more feeder programs you have, we all know college football is what it is, but it's still not pro football. It isn't. No matter how you slice it, college is college and pro is pro. 1 foot in bounds, another one 2 feet, and the rest goes on. So I think I hope it happens. The sooner the better. 18-game season, expect that. My last topic of the night before I turn it over to Mel is, will the New York Jets break their 14-game losing streak versus the New England Patriots this weekend? Garrett Wilson says it's unacceptable. Yeah, I guess when you've lost 14 in a row up by 95 is not going to be very good. So, Bo, what's your take on this?
Man, this is a tough one to pick. So I'm actually going to go with no. I think the Pats can get it done. I really like the defense that they've shown out there, and of course, just like any other Pats, team in the past, their offensive and defensive lines have been good. So as long as Mac Jones doesn't come out and get careless with the football, I think they can actually win this game. Now, granted, this is going to be the best defense they've come up against going against the Jets, but I don't trust Zach Wilson in the offense. So unless he happens to have a hallmark day, this is going to be a slugfest to the end. And in this case, I think the Pats will pull it off.
Okay, Coach.
Yeah, I agree with Bo. I think this one's going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes on offense. And right now, I don't have faith in Zach Wilson or the play calls right now. I think, again, if they can figure it out and stay more patient with the run game, because that's what they really need to do. But this could be a 5-2 game. I think
Right.
the Major League Baseball teams might score more points than these two teams this week.
That's good. I like that. That is good. All right, George, follow that act.
I can't really. I'm just going to go the other way because I like to go against all you guys, even though you beat me most of the time, like you did with Detroit and Kansas City. No, I'm going to say they are going to end the streak. They're tired of it. The fans are tired of it. The New York media, of course, is tired of it. And the Giants haven't been gangbusters either. So there's a lot of pressure on the Jets to get that win. And on a lark, I'm going to say, yes, they're going to get it. They're going to beat New England by a score of 20-16.
Mel?
I mean, this one's easy. I don't trust Zach Wilson. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks. I mean, who do you trust? I don't trust Zach Wilson. And if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm loading up the box and I'm making him beat me. And if he beats me, great. I can live with that. But they're not going to run the football for 200 on me. I can promise you that. They're not going to run for 150 on me. I can promise you that. We're going to stop the run. They're going to see 8-9-man boxes, and I'm daring him to throw it. I might even leave somebody out there just by themselves just to make sure that he throws it. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair, but I don't see any way how the Jets break this streak.
Okay, fair enough. Travis?
It's the curse of Zach Wilson, man. And it stinks because as long as he's the quarterback, it's hard to have confidence. I mean, and you've all said it. Essentially, from the time that Zach Wilson became a man, since from the time that this man turned 18 years old, they haven't beat this team. So basically, whenever he got onto the radar of the Jets, just a thought in their mind, they haven't beaten the New England Patriots, unfortunately. But I would say all that with the small caveat that the Jets almost beat the Patriots the last time they played, and I honestly didn't remember it until you sent the subjects for this conversation. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they almost win? Yeah, they almost beat them the last time. It was 3-3 with 20-something seconds left, and they won on a punt return. And the Patriots won on the punt return, and it was like, all right, that was an ugly game that they only had like 101 yards in the first half, and it was a 3-3 game with 26 seconds left in the game. Like, all right, cool. So that Jets defense, as we've seen them, they're legit. They are a problem for the Patriots, and the Patriots defense is a problem for that offense. So I think we're all giving the tie to Bill Belichick because you kind of got to go with the team that's won 14 in a row until they lose. I mean, that's just gambling. If you're on the street, you just keep going, all right? Or maybe that's bad gambling. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, you kind of have to lean to the guy who's won 14 in a row. But as soon as I say this, I'm like, I bet they're going to win. They're going to find a way to run the ball, or special teams are going to do something, something along those lines. But I'm leaning New England.
Yeah, I'll conclude it before I turn over to Mel. 16-13 in favor of New England. At some point during the season, I do believe that Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones, that combination will work, and the Patriots will grow as the year goes on. Remember, the Alabama familiarity will ultimately come into play as the year goes on. But to me, the Patriots gave the Miami Dolphins game on Sunday night. But still, I am not comfortable with the Jets. And I'll make one other prediction before I do turn it over to you, Mel, that should the Jets lose, there will be a veteran quarterback brought into the Jets clubhouse next week. There will be. I don't know which one, and we'll save it for maybe Monday night, and I'll let everybody know there will be a programming note that we will be doing Inside the Pigskin on Monday night next week, because I will be going in for some surgery on Tuesday. Want to make sure we stay in sync every week during the football season, so that'll be a programming note. So, with that said, Mel, what do you have?
Yeah, just real quickly, just have one. You've been watching, Deshaun Watson. He's got about 8 games of work to look at right now, and you have to ask yourself, what kind of return on investment is Cleveland getting? I mean, is it worth what they gave up to acquire somebody, number one, who they didn't know how long was going to be suspended, and number two, was dealing with all the kind of stuff that he was dealing with? Why would I want to take on somebody else's problem, all of a sudden make that my problem? That's beside the point. They made that decision. Oh, do you think that the Deshaun Watson experiment is paying off for the Browns?
I mean, this just feels like a very Browns thing to have had happen. They overextended themselves to get a guy that isn't panning out. That sounds like every quarterback situation they've had for 30 years. So is this what I expected? Yeah, kind of, actually. I thought it was a reach. I thought it was interesting that they did fully guaranteed for a guy that essentially wasn't going to play for 2 full years. And I don't know about habits you guys have, but I've never gotten better at doing something by not doing it for 2 years.
Good point. All right, well, Coach,
what are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? You look at his numbers and Baker Mayfield's numbers right now. I think Baker Mayfield has a QBR over 100.
Baker Mayfield's 2-0 right now.
Deshaun is 1-1, but their numbers, I mean, how they're getting there is drastically different. Yeah. Obviously, Cleveland has been relying on a run game now. Nick Chubb is out.
Yeah, that was really.
They're bringing Kareem Hunt in here to take a look. Yeah, pardon me?
Very unfortunate. I mean, I hate to see that, and gosh, man, that's horrific. It's terrible. But I mean, I still think it's a little too early to, to say. I mean, obviously, last night wasn't wasn't great. That was kind of a, I mean, those
Ugly
were
game.
two ugly games. Let's say it the way it was. I mean, two ugly games. I mean, Pittsburgh's got work to do offensively. I mean, their defense won the game. So, but it might be a little premature to really to call it right now. I think this guy's been a great player in the past. I think he's got an offensive minded coach, knows how to use them. I think Chubb going out the way he did in that game is going to affect that whole team, during that game. You know what I mean? They're all watching, they watch the heart and soul of that team go down that way. And, it's deflating, and they're on the road, and I think the jury's still out. I think we'll see what happens.
I hope you're right, because I took a flyer on Deshaun in fantasy, and it has not worked out.
Excuse me. What do you think, George?
Well, I mean, yeah, he has gone through a lot, and a lot of it is self-imposed what he's gone through in his brief NFL career. But, again, the Browns have a history of not doing well and having quarterbacks in and out that don't seem to work out. I certainly wish him the best. I agree with Coach. I mean, those were sloppy games last night. Your first night of Monday Night Football, the premiere, the doubleheader premiere. They moved that back, as you guys know, a week. It really is the first Monday where they have the two games, but this time they did it differently. That being said, I mean, he did some things I liked. He has some talent, and it's going to be more of a wait and see with me also, Mal.
Okay. Travis, you have any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, as a Jaguars fan, I had a lot of time to take a look at Deshaun Watson. He was in division with us for whatever it was, those 4 years. And I thought Cleveland was a weird fit to begin with, just to be real about this. And when we played them in the preseason, what was it, last year? And all the snaps that I saw of him then, I'm like, he looks horrible. And I thought that then, and I just it's just been something that's been on my head ever since. Like, oh, he hasn't gotten better. Nope, he hasn't gotten better. Nope, he still hasn't gotten better. And it takes me back to the original thought process of, I never thought Cleveland was a good fit in the first place. You were only going to be a good fit if you were going to bring in the offense that he was comfortable running. Like most other quarterbacks, that's what happens these days. Is if you bring that quarterback in, you're bringing that system with that quarterback. I mean, most of the better quarterbacks, I won't even say great quarterbacks, it's most of the better quarterbacks, that's what's happening. That's not what happened here, though. Like the quarterback that he ran in, the system that he ran after his rookie year in Houston is the same offense he ran in Clemson, and that's what he was successful at, running that spread offense that a lot of the quarterbacks these days are running. Frankly, you're not seeing that in Cleveland, though. They're running a prototypical pro offense where we're going to establish the running game. We're going to be under center, 50 to 60% of the time. We're going to give you some play action, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's never been his game. From the start, that like the only time that was his game was also his worst years in his worst year in the NFL, his rookie season. So after a guy spends a year, 2 years, whatever it is, on the sidelines, and he's running an offense that he was never good running, and you signed him on a guaranteed contract to run that offense, all of this seems like square peg round hole. I'm just saying, like I don't want to just say give up on him automatically because of everything that happened off the field. But if I'm just looking at the tape and the scheme and all of that, what are we doing here? If you're going to give the guy a $200+ million contract, then put him in the offense that he runs, and if he fails, he fails. Or are you just trying to blow this sucker up? Like, what's happening here? What's the plan?
Yeah, great analysis there, Travis. Scott, do you have anything you would like to add to it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Number one, the one person who should be worried about it the most is Kevin Stefanski. His job will be on the line if he can't get him straight. Number two, here's the thing. The Texans are looking like bandits here. They are. What about all that draft capital that they acquired to get rid of the headache? Get rid of the headache financially, and then you get draft capital. And C.J. Stroud has potential to be good. they're looking out. They're looking like bandits. I think you've got something with C.J. Stroud. So when you put the sum of the whole, Kevin Stefanski better be praying that he can get it straightened out quick because of all the inactivity that Deshaun Watson has had. I don't care how good you are and how much talent. If you're off because of inactivity, I don't care whether the guy was on the practice squad, for the Texans just earning a paycheck. It's different when you're in live action. And now you suffer an injury to Chubb, then you've got a double-edged sword here. So Kevin Stefanski, when I have some good advice for you, pray and go to church, even if you have to go on a different day than Sunday, because I don't know what day they do confessions. Okay. And I'm not very big on that. Is it Wednesday night where you do confessions that I got to, and again, I'm not big on religion. I'm just
Saturday afternoon.
Huh?
Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon.
Well, make sure your confessions are there that this guy doesn't cost you your job because you're not getting paid $230 million for this guy to wreck your career. So,
man.
We try to keep it real here inside the pigskin. I don't talk religion, politics, but let's face the reality. I'll give you $230 million why you should be nervous. Okay. The unemployment line. And we all know that the Cleveland Browns, to me, don't mind getting rid of coaches. I used to think about George Steinbrenner getting rid of managers, but I'll tell you, the Cleveland Browns and Jimmy Haslam have made the art of getting rid of coaches one after another. And that's just a fact. So take it.
Excellent point, Scott. You're right.
Yeah. So
yep.
As we deal with questionable weather conditions, I'm glad we're able to get this puppy in tonight. So coming up after Inside the Pigskin, we have 108 Stitches baseball talk. Any closing thoughts from any of y'all?
Oh, I just wanted to know everybody's thoughts on whether and what do they think the Cleveland's going to do at running back.
They talk about Kareem Hunt is coming in for a visit.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Travis? We'll put that one on hold till next Monday night. How does that sound?
I got you. Yes, sir.
And the running back turns, okay? And now we're not talking about Mel Farr Jr. We'll see how many running backs get picked up as, unfortunately, the injuries are starting to take place in week 2 of the NFL.
It's not just running backs now. The quarterback started this. Aaron Rodgers only lasted 4 plays.
Yeah, no, I know. That's true. Yeah, that's why we let off with Aaron Rodgers. Okay, now we're working away our running backs. We have a back. One's a quarter, one's a running. Go figure. That's a common denominator between the two positions. Okay. Yeah, I know about those.
Burrow, he's gimpy. I mean, it's a tough business. It's tough.
It is. Well, and they may go after Cam Akers too, because Cam Akers is on the trade block again. So that could be a viable thing for him.
There's a reason why he's on the trade block. So
that'll be an interesting conversation next Monday night. We'll see what running backs get picked up. So as Candy Ebling just mentioned,
let's save that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So. But meanwhile, good show tonight. Appreciate the effort of every one of you. Don't appreciate Mother Nature throwing lightning in my left eye, but it doesn't matter. We're going to make sure everybody has an opportunity to let everyone know how they get hold of it. Bo, start off, please.
Yeah, so you can find me on my channel, which is Football-Talk, and of course on Twitter, on my handle right there, Football Talk with Bo.
Okay, Coach.
You can find me right here on LinkedIn, Friday night, under the Friday Night Lights.
Attaboy. Of course, we're going to be keeping you busy on a lot of other shows, including the one that we're working on with special teams. We're waiting for me to get out of the hospital and get a little bit better, and we're going to start it. But I'm working on some new wrinkles to make it really interesting all the way around. So I think Coach has faith in my ability to come up with some stuff. We'll make sure when we kick that show off, pun intended, kick off, okay, that we're going to make sure that we have a good return. Oh, that's speaking his language and lingo, isn't it? So look at this guy. All right. Although we know you're getting much better at this broadcasting thing, too. All right, George, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's available. There's a link at the end of my column. I write for the South Florida Tribune and the Motor City Tribune. You'll find a link that'll take you to a quick, easy way to charge card it and get yourself a copy of my book. Scott's in the book as well. And we have a lot of fun things going on here. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. And you can reach me on LinkedIn under my name, George Icorn, or on X, formerly Twitter, at SandGSports99. You could find me on this show as well as 108 Stitches, the Sports Exchange, and Pundits Pundit, wherever Scott needs me. I'm more than happy to come on board and talk some sports with all of you.
You're next, Mel.
Find me on all the social media. Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn at Mel Farr Jr. And you can find out what we have going on for the youth down here in Georgia and also up in Michigan at melfarr.org.
And last but not least, Travis Sherlock Holmes, before I go out there and mention us. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me here every week. You can also find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. That's Twitter, Threads, Facebook, etc. You can find my writings on bitcatcountry.com covering the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you can find me, well, I think that pretty much covers it. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
All right. Well, as far as we're concerned, just so everybody know, once again, in case you're just joining us, that Inside the Pigskin being broadcast around the world, the audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes, and she does a wonderful job with the website in more ways than anyone can imagine. I'm working on a book with old school versus new school media. I'll give you more details as we get closer to publishing date. Great show by my crew tonight. Of course, I don't expect anything less than that because my goal is to provide the best talent that I can, so we educate, inform, and entertain. And I feel like as long as we accomplish all of those goals with the groups that we put together, then we've done what we set out to do. So on behalf of Bo, Coach, Bono, George Eichhorn, Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott, and Travis Holmes. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Following us will be 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Good night, everybody. And once again, we will be broadcasting next Monday night. So please put that on your calendar next Monday night at around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So put that in there, and we hope that you can be with us then. Take care, everybody, and have a great football week.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye-bye.